Alright, back on the XL600, and you can see that I've gone in there and kind of cleaned it up a little bit from what it was. It still needs quite a bit more work, but today what I'm doing is we're going to do this seat cover. And what I have here is a replacement seat cover. It's going to go on this seat. You can see the difference in the color. So it talks about using staples and staple gun. So I've got a little Harbor Freight staple gun here, and these staples here, I've got my needle nose pliers. This is kind of it's a nice little pick tool. You can see what it looks like. I can probably pull staples with that. And then I've got this set of dikes. So let's get started.
Please St. Louis Blues. Please St. Louis Blues. Please St. Louis.
Seat that may have been redone at one time. You gotta watch your creases here. You gotta make sure that crease coincides with this area right here. So if it's not right, then it won't look good. Here, and then pull a little bit on the back. See kind of what this looks like. If it's going to be right there, or do we need just a little bit more? If you're even on each side, which we are just a little off, alright, so what I was able to do is stretch this over. Of course, these are not going to be perfect. I mean, they look pretty nice, but as you can see, this one's form-fitted because you can see there's no stitch lines on it except for in the bottom, and it's got like a pocket that the front of the seat sits in, which this one does not. This one isn't pocketed, so you've got to kind of work with it, stretch it over. And so anyway, the way what I figured I would do is use these clamps, pull this thing as tight as I can get it. Now the foam, like I say, is not perfect, so it's got a few ripples in it. But I think as far as pulling this over and starting to staple it into place, will probably be okay. The back, right here, I can't get anything on there without compromising, but I think I can hold it in place and get the Honda to where it's fairly flush. Like I say, it's probably going to need a little bit more work, but it'll tax your fingers and your strength doing this, because you got to pull it around. I've got a little heater here that's kind of heating things up a little bit for me, but I think it'll probably be acceptable for a dirt bike. It's not too bad. So I've got a gallon container. This is from a washer fluid bottle. And what I do is I take this and cut strips, right like this. Take this old knife, and I just basically will just cut this down into pieces. And what I'm going to use this for is basically for like a friction type surface for the staples to go through, to kind of help the material not tear, which it usually tears a little anyway. That's why you have to staple the heck out of them. And then you come up with these little pieces like that. And then as you staple, you put a piece on the seat and then you push that down, and then that'll help to staple through it. Now these are crown staples. They don't have the wide staples, these are the narrow ones, so they're going to have to work. And right now I'm just warming up my seat. I've got my seat here. Just on there's just a little heater there. And so we're just warming that up a little bit to kind of help it somewhat stretch a little bit more and conform some. And besides, it's kind of cold outside. You can see how those go in there, and then I can trim this off. I'm not sure about putting my finger in there. I'll put a longer piece like this and make sure everything's lined up, and then I've got this little extra area that I can staple to. And you don't want to push the stapler really hard into it, because then it kind of countersinks. Looking pretty good. Like I say, it's got seams on it where the other one didn't, but I'm sure it's a little crooked. But then again, so is the foam. I think the foam's been messed with the heater, and let it go a little bit so I can start working these edges right here. I want to try and get this edge to line up. You can feel that right here is the edge of the plastic seat. So I want to get that pulled down, and I think that's going to help this look a little bit more conformed. So we'll put it back down here by the heater. That can right there, it's empty. Some people might think it's got flammable, but it's empty. Right, so another thing you can do is, I'm slicing all these up, but also there's some thicker areas of this bottom end, and what I've done is I've got a pair of Fiskars. Bought these at an auction, I think a big bag of Fiskars, so I took one of them and chopped it to make more leverage. Now it does overcut, but you can come in here and you can cut these things, and like this pair of scissors has a little bit more power against it. You can take these thicker pieces like this. What I like to do is I'll take and make strips out of them, and these are quite a bit thicker. And so when you're when you're stapling onto the sides, see how I've done this? Now I can trim all these, but I can lay that piece in there and get it closer down here, because you don't want it to pop through the other side here. So if you're using 3/8 staples, you don't want to, you know, like that. If I put a 1/2 inch staple through there, it's going to go clear through the end, and then as you ride, it'll wear a hole in it, and then the sun will bake it and tear it apart. So you don't want to do that. That's one of the ways I go about, but you can see how it's starting to conform. They're not perfect, these seat covers. They look pretty good, and this is starting to, it's got a little bit of a ripple to it, and it could be that it's got a you know, some of the foam is actually deteriorated over time. You can't get foam for it. You have to build your own. Thing you can do is they've got like headliner foam that I've gotten before, and I've laid in there in strips, but then you can see the seam of it. But I think this is going to be okay. Another thing you can do too is that sitting this out in the sun a little at a time, you can put it out there for a couple hours and then kind of shape it, and then over time it'll start to shrink up, and a lot of this will go away. I've had that happen before. So it just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. Alright, well, you know, for a dirt bike, this really isn't too bad. I've got a little trimming to do and get some of these plastic corners and whatnot, and I'll trim those out. But considering what it is, it's really not that bad. And it'll probably take a little bit of time and a little time out in the sun. This will soften up and shrink just a little bit. It'll probably be just fine. It's only got a couple of little small wrinkles in it. But again, for dirt bike, it's not bad. So I'm going to give it another thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Good.